Hey guys, thank you for tuning in. Recently, I posted on my Facebook and on the community tab of YouTube a revelation found in the investiture of the Archangel Michael, um, really having revealing prophecies that we see in Sirach, possibly even in the book of Enoch, um, concerning the church of the last days. Um, this prophecy pretty much tells us, with discernment, that Elijah will be running a church um, before the millennial reign. Elijah is called to restore all things, the hearts of the sons to the fathers, the hearts of the fathers to the sons. Um, One of those fulfillments we could definitely understand is the fulfillment of Yah's word. We are living in a time in the last days, we have the internet, so all these lost ancient texts are coming to forth, so that's likely part of Elijah's call. And what we see here, what we're able to piece together is the ministry of Elijah will have to do with a building of a library. Okay? Um, we see this in the book of Sirach and all that kind of stuff. So, those of you who've been following along. Um, Now, I did a video on this like a year or two ago, but the book of the Cave of Treasures tells us, we all know the Church of Philadelphia is the church that Yah was pleased with. He did not rebuke. Um, Now, if we know it, now when we do research on the Church of Philadelphia, Philadelphia, where that name came from, was from this person right here. He ruled Philadelphia, and meaning brotherly love. And what this guy did, the ruler of Philadelphia, where the Church of Philadelphia was, he was um, he was a big friend of the Alexandrian Library, which was one of the biggest libraries of the time. Okay? So, what we're seeing in these prophecies, that Elijah will likely, there will be a library standing, um, um, maybe even in the Great Tribulation. Elijah is supposed to be coming in the Great Tribulation. You know what I'm saying? So, uh, you know, where the gates of hell cannot prevail against. We live in a time, guys, in our age, if we know anything, you cannot have a big central building without being corrupt, because the mafia owns everything, um, and you can't serve God and Mammon at the same time. I've been asking God for this revelation to give me more understanding on this, but Elijah, when he comes, he's not going to be like us in our fallen nature. He's likely going to be in a redemptive, angelic nature. Likely unlike anything anyone has ever seen. We could see this in the Wisdom of Solomon. Um, so, with this revelation, and we also saw one of the recent books that we put on the website, the those collection of ancient fragments of Elijah. Um, One of those fragments, talks about him having an angelic nature, but it says something that's very important. It's the There's one little phrase at the end of that fragment that says, "And he will be contending with angelic works." So really amazing. Um, so with this in mind, I think we could look at Revelation 3:7 through 12, the Church of Philadelphia, in a new light. That because this is also revelation Yah has showed me. This is why I'm coming to these conclusions. Like over the past year or two, just walking around New York City, he would show me these gothic. I would be walking down Church Street, which is a very long street downtown. I'd be going there, putting up my Jesus Loves You stickers everywhere I could back then. And he would point out this big gothic type of church. We all know those things are generally run by Satan. And he just said, the church where the gates of hell will not prevail. And now I'm starting to understand. These things are starting to piece together for me. Um, that I think God may give us a building a very large building in the last days that will serve as a library slash church, um, that will be run by the ministry of Elijah. Um, I believe that's what's going to happen, and the only way to do that is as if God is with you, okay? Because you can't do that in your own strength. So, with that in mind, let's take a look at Revelation 3 7 through 13. I think it's talking about um, this church of Elijah, which will eventually morph into a, it's just a shadow of something greater to come. I mean, this church will be great, it seems like, but it's just a shadow of something even greater when the millennial reign will have a heavenly church, a heavenly library. Okay, we see this stuff in the prophecies, so it's just like a shadow of something greater. So, in context, when we look at Revelation 3 7 through 13, keep in mind those shadows. Okay, you understand what I'm getting at? Okay. And to the angel of the church of Philadelphia write these things, saith he that is holy, he that is true, he that has the key of David, he that opens and no man shuts, and shuts and no man opens. Okay? I know your works, behold, I have before you an open door, and no man can shut it, for you have little strength, and has kept my word, and have not denied my name. Behold, I make now this is where the revelation really kicks in. Behold, I will make them of the synagogue of Satan, which say they are Jews and are not. This is not, guys, which say they are believers, which say they are of the house of Israel and are not. These are what we read of in the book of Jude. Certain men crept in unawares, etc. Okay? We need spiritual eyes in these texts. Which say they are Jews and are not, but do lie. Behold, I will make them come and worship before your feet, and to know that I have loved you. So, if God is going to raise up a building in these last days, right, and this is the kind of stuff God does. He doesn't separate us from our enemies. He makes us rule in the midst of our enemies. Okay, Israel is a very small, the Jewish people are a very small people, surrounded by general enemies, generally speaking. Israel is a very small country, surrounded by its enemies. This is what God does, so He alone is glorified. It's no different. Okay, flat Earth, we could think of the same thing. Well, this big creation we have, we don't really, there's no, the word universe and galaxies don't exist in Hebrew, because those things don't exist. We don't really know what's outside beyond the dome. So this is why people get tripped up. But this is the pattern of God. The earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof. Actually, the texts tell us outside the dome is Satan. Satan created their own worlds, their own outer space, as we want to put it from our pagan lens. But what is the author of creations is just a small bit. So He alone is glorified. It's the same thing, guys. You could look at this scale. That's His pattern. Okay? So if God is going to raise up a church in the last days, a big institute type of building, okay? You cannot have that in these times unless God is absolutely with you. Behold, I will make, because you're going to have your mafia. You cannot have a big institute without making a deal with the mafia, because they own all the money, they own all the buildings, they own all the permits, all that kind of stuff. Behold, I make them of the synagogue of Satan, which say they are Jews and are not, but lie. Behold, I make them come and worship before your feet, and to know that I have loved thee. Because you have kept the word of my patience, I also will keep thee from the hour of temptation. Okay, so put this in the lens of times we're living in. We're expecting an hour of temptation to come. We don't exactly know what that means, but we are expecting bad times to come. Which shall come upon all the world and try them that dwell upon the earth. Behold, I come quickly. Hold fast which you have, that no man will take your crown. And he that overcomes, make a pillar of the temple of my God. He shall go no more out. And then we see all these. Perhaps this might give us revelation into what Elijah and his church might have. We see this stuff in the Equium of John the Baptist. They will be getting that golden oil, to be given power to be called sons of Elohim. Zechariah 3 says there will be a sign and a wonder. Okay, the churches and the branches, the olive branches and the menorahs lifted up by Moses and Elijah are going to be wonders, because they're going to be glorified in. They're going to be above your average people. They're going to be redeemed from our sin nature. Okay, I don't know. It's a mystery. So with this revelation, it really puts Revelation 3, 7 through 13 in a new light. Okay, especially verse 9. Because the fulfillment of this verse would even make such a thing possible. So this is what the Lord is leading me into. Okay, the Church of Philadelphia, the man who ruled Philadelphia, who Philadelphia was named after, was a friend of the Library of Alexandria. A friend of is a church of knowledge, and we all know, if you know our Bibles, wisdom is the principal thing. Okay, it's the only way to keep our oil in our lamps. So, all right, guys, I pray people have eyes to see and ears to hear. Check if you want to keep up. Check out the community tab on my YouTube or on one of my most recent posts on Facebook. Okay, you'll see these revelations posted here. It'll start making sense. But yes, things Yah has shown me a year or two ago about, Peter being the rock, the church that the gates of hell will not prevail against. It puts all this stuff into a new light. I think we're going to see we're entering into a type and shadow of that. I really do believe he's going to be doing this. Okay, guys, thanks for tuning in. God bless you.